Assassin's Creed Valhalla is an RPG down to its roots, from the vast skills and upgrade systems to the dialogue choices and customization. After 3 hours of game time, it's clear to me that Valhalla is following in the footsteps of Origins and Odyssey, but also making some welcome changes to these systems. The skill tree, for example, is completely separate from ability unlocks. Skill points and archetypes are more important than ever. It feels like you can truly customize your playstyle thanks to a more granular stats system with a skill tree that's so vast. There's so much depth to dive into, so strap in. Here's everything you need to know about skills and upgrading in Valhalla. In case you missed it, I've made videos covering combat and stealth in detail, so if you'd like to learn more about those concepts, be sure to check out the videos on my channel. Before we move on, this video is brought to you by Opera GX, the world's first browser built for gamers. It's tailored specifically for the gaming community, and guys, it's so good that I've actually uninstalled Chrome. Opera GX is especially useful for PC gamers because of GX Control, which lets you maximize PC game performance while your browser is still running. It's perfect if you want to keep multiple tabs, streams, or my videos open while you're playing. Opera GX has limiters that let you control its impact on CPU and RAM, maximizing frames and performance in-game. If you're a PC gamer like me, you know how much of a resource hog Chrome is. I've said goodbye to Chrome, goodbye to insane RAM usage, and goodbye to laggy tabs. And welcome to Opera GX. With its customization, limiters, Twitch and Discord integrations, basically everything I want out of a browser. Speaking of, Opera GX has the best integrations I've ever used. After logging into my Twitch account, I get notifications when my favorite streamers go live. With Discord, I can manage my server straight from the browser. Opera GX has their own Discord server too, so you guys should join using the link below for giveaways and contests. One of the most useful features is GX Corner, which basically does my job for me. It shows a calendar of upcoming game releases, free games across multiple platforms, sales, trailers, news, and more. I used to open like a dozen tabs in Chrome to track all of this stuff, but Opera GX puts everything in one place. Of course, it helps that this browser is beautiful to look at. Opera GX is dark, sleek, and modern in a way that old browsers just can't even touch. I changed my theme to this neon green and imported a Valhalla screenshot for my background. Plus, it has customizable sound effects that I didn't expect to love as much as I do. Do yourself a favor and download Opera GX now using the link in the description and the pinned comment. If you're watching this on mobile, don't worry, you can still click the link, put your email in the box on the website, and you'll get a link to download on your PC. Leveling in Valhalla is a bit different since there's no level indicator like Origins and Odyssey. How strong you are and your ability to fight tougher enemies is represented by your global power instead. The idea is essentially the same as levels, but you won't see levels floating above your enemies' heads anymore. Instead, the world is divided by regions based on a suggested power level. In my interview with Jessica Maher, she mentioned that Valhalla will not have level gating, forcing us to do side activities to continue the main story. There's also no level scaling, meaning that these areas way above your level will be very tough if you're below that level. But at the same time, if we're higher power than the area, we should be able to destroy enemies. Your global power is based on the number of skill nodes you have unlocked in the skill tree. This value boosts your base stats, raising your ability to survive tougher enemies. Each individual skill point that you spend counts towards this number, and you'll be earning skill points quite frequently. From what I could tell, completing certain activities rewards skill points, but not all of them. For example, wealth does not generate any skill points. When you find a new weapon, ability, or a chest, you don't earn points just for doing that. But my reward for defeating Thor the Fishmonger was 4 skill points. I did not, however, get skill points for the Wayward or Raider Cat world events. So it really depends. I think tougher activities will give you skill points and easier ones will not. While there's no leveling like it was before, there's still an XP bar in the top right corner that fills every time you complete activities, discover new locations, kill enemies, synchronize, etc. Each time this bar fills up to the top, you get 2 skill points. I'm not sure if the value of this bar increases as your global power rises or it stays the same, but I did notice that I started gaining more XP for world events the higher my global power was. Let's dive into the skill tree, which is actually more of a web. It branches off in 3 separate directions from the beginning, each attached to a specific archetype. We have Raven, bear, and wolf. These directions eventually link back to each other, so again, it's more like a web. For example, I didn't find any dead ends like you'd expect from a normal skill tree. Activating more red nodes total increases your bear power, which provides bonuses to all bear gear. Same goes for raven and wolf. You can tell which class a piece of armor or weapon belongs to based on the color and the icon in the inventory screen. I wasn't able to experience the effect of specializing in a certain archetype in the demo, and those stat increases weren't reflected in any numerical value that I could see. I'm hoping Valhalla has a detailed stats page like Odyssey where you can see everything, the effects of all the customization that you're doing. The majority of the skill tree is made of stat nodes, these tiny little stars. Each one costs a skill point, and these improve your base stats, and they can be very broad or very specific. You can kind of tell what these are based on the icon, but there's a few exceptions. From what I got to see, there were some nodes that appeared in bear, raven, and wolf sections, like it didn't matter. But there were others that only appeared in one of those archetypes. It's hard to make any sweeping observations because this is just a fraction of the entire web. Instead, here's a list of every single stat node I could find so you have a good idea of what you'll be able to do. Ranged attack damage, health, all resistances, poison efficiency, ranged attack resistance, headshot damage, stealth attack damage, weapon impact, fire efficiency, fire potency, ranged crit chance, melee crit chance, assassination damage, all ability damage, all melee damage, poison damage, hammer training, heavy shield training, spear training, greatsword training, Dane axe training, evasion, heavy attack damage, all crit damage, regular attack resistance, heavy attack resistance. So just to be clear, it seems like if there's a stat, there's probably a node for it in this skill web. The rest of the skill web is made of skill nodes. These grant unique contextual abilities and they cost 1 point each. The skill icons are bigger and you'll have to work towards these by investing in stat nodes in order to unlock the skill nodes. The following is a list of every single skill node I could find using other people's gameplay and my own gameplay. Raven skills tend to deal with dexterity and assassination. So you have backstab, brush with death, counter roll, predator bow combo, advanced assassination, breakfall, and chain assassination. Guided arrow. Bear skill nodes have almost all to do with direct combat. You have dual swap, terror, stomp, light bow combo, berserker's metal, heavy dual wield, and parry damage. Wolf skills are related to ranged combat and movement abilities. Things like bow stun finisher, emergency aim, bow to melee link, hunter bow combo, stealth adrenaline, and sprint attack. It's certainly possible I've missed a few out in the wild, but I've also seen an ability to throw nearby weapons that are on the ground. I am almost positive that that is a skill node. Within the Raven, Bear, and Wolf trees are adrenaline upgrade slots too. These are represented by the same icon, and you might have to work towards these in order to increase your adrenaline pool, even if you don't want to specialize in that particular archetype. We can make a pretty informed guess right now on how many skill nodes and stat nodes there will be in the entire game. Each constellation has about 8 to 10 stat nodes with 1 skill node. And then there are like 1 to 3 stat nodes branching these separate constellations together. From the Ubisoft Forward gameplay, we saw an Eivor with 647 power. This means that they've spent 647 skill points in their tree. It makes me think we'll see at least 60 skill nodes, which is crazy to think about. That's so much variety. I really can't wait to see the full web. Moving on to the inventory screen, which is nearly identical to Origins and Odyssey. This is where you have access to your armor, which has slots for cloak, chest, head, bracers, and boots. I didn't see any new armor pieces in my demo, just the ones that I came with. Then there are slots for weapons, for a bow, a main hand weapon, and an offhand weapon. On the left, you can upgrade your quiver and ration capacities, and on the right, you have access to your bag and a quick reference of your supply of common crafting materials. Like we mentioned before, weapons and armor are divided into 3 archetypes: Raven, Bear, and Wolf. It was hard for me to prove whether these archetypes had predictable stat differences. It seems that the stat values are more tied to the weapon type rather than being Raven, Bear, or Wolf. Of course, we haven't seen a ton of footage of the inventory screen, so we'll learn more once we see more gameplay. But for now, we're going to dive into those stat values. Where Origins and Odyssey gave us broad values like DPS for weapons and armor for our armor pieces, Valhalla gives us a ton more detail. I'm going to speculate on what some of these mean since we don't have direct definitions, we only have hints from other parts of the game. Both melee and ranged weapons have 4 stats: attack, which is your raw damage output, speed, which is your swing or fire rate, impact, this could be your ability to stagger enemies, and critical percentage, which is your chance to crit. Shields have a separate set of stats. You have block, which I'm assuming this is how much damage you can take before your stamina runs out. Attack, which is your raw damage output. Once again, we can attack with shields, so that's why that's there. And then there's weight. I'm assuming this affects our mobility when we have shields. We know that there's also heavy shields in addition to light shields, so those may be heavier and slow us down. In terms of armor stats, there are 3 values to look at. Armor reduces your damage taken. Evasion improves your chance of avoiding damage and decreases the chance of getting hit by a critical attack. And weight, which once again, this is an assumption, it affects your movement speed in combat when you have it equipped. I only got to see this Raven set, no other types or pieces of armor, so there may be more stats that we don't know about. Weapons and armor have a quality tier like the last few games, but this time they're different. Instead of being dictated by the color, like blue for rare, epic for purple, and legendary for gold, they're displayed with a prefix on each piece. You'll see fine, refined, superior, flawless, and the strongest tier is mythical. You can collect specific resources which are tracked in the bag in order to upgrade to the next tier. We're going to take these to Gunner, which is the name of our blacksmith in the settlement, in order to upgrade to a higher quality. Right now, we have no idea what this will do. We have no frame of reference since we weren't able to upgrade rarities in Origins or Odyssey. The second way of upgrading is more familiar and it returns from Origins and Odyssey. When you have the resources to upgrade, you'll see this tiny plus icon in the inventory screen. Weapons and armor have 10 levels represented by these bars underneath the stats. These upgrades cost crafting materials like leather and iron ore in exchange for minor stat boosts. In my experience, they only boosted attack damage, but that could just be the demo. The more upgrades you invest, the higher the cost and the more materials required. One more little detail I wanted to point out on the inventory screen. Every single piece of gear has this conspicuous blank space with the assassin's logo underneath. This is 100% speculation, so take with a grain of salt, but my guess is this is where we'll see the engraving system return from previous games. We know that Valhalla has something called runes, but we don't know what their purpose is yet. My guess is there will be craftsmen similar to a blacksmith at our settlement that can apply runes, which adds special gear effects to our items. And this blank space is where we'll get to see those runes in action. Let's take a closer look at the bag page because there's a ton of stuff here that's really easy to miss. Under resources, we have raw materials, which are used to build our settlement, found by raiding monasteries. Supplies had no description for me. Opal is a rare material traded in the settlement for exotic goods, and silver is the basic currency. Under crafting materials, leather is found on animals, iron ore can be mined, fabric is found in chests, and titanium ingot is found in the world. The following 4 materials are used to enhance gear quality like we talked about before. So carbon upgrades fine to refined, nickel is refined to superior, tungsten is superior to flawless, and chromium is flawless to mythical. All of these say Gunner would make great use of it in the settlement, so I assume that's the name of our blacksmith. The bottom row tracks consumables, so that's your hunter arrows, light arrows, predator arrows, and rations. The entire right side of the screen is dedicated to tracking runes, collectibles, trade goods, quest items, and treasure maps. Given there are far less slots for this stuff than in Origins and Odyssey, it makes me think these items will be a little more rare than those games. That is all we know on skills and upgrades, and I'll be covering exploration, story, and more from my time with the demo soon, so subscribe and stay tuned to the channel. Shout out to Opera once again for supporting the channel. Make sure you guys check out the link below to download Opera GX for free. For the rest of the video, enjoy some raw gameplay of the skills menu, inventory screen, and upgrade systems. Big thanks to my patrons, Bill, Grass, Casey, John, Kilrainer, Kamal, Patrick, Spyro, Tom, Jackie, and Level 42. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll talk to you next time.